And I think we're live, Aaron.
I'm just kidding. Hey guys, how you doing? It's like, oh no, his thing froze.
And look at Aaron's quality this week, guys. Look,
Does it look
this
good?
Is unbelievable.
I hope it looks good. Well, it always looked good from my side until I go over to YouTube. It's delayed, but hopefully I look good.
Well, it looks good to me. Oh, I've got to push. Yeah, I think it looks great because last week I could see it through my end anyway, so you could see that it was not quite as good last time. So we're in pre-show, guys.
Hogarth, you think it looks good? I called my company and said, hey, you better fix something, and they did something, so let's hope.
Now, why people are just coming in too, let us know how the audio is, because usually people say Aaron is louder than me. So let us know if the audio is okay. So
Matthew,
how have you been, Aaron?
Gilbert, I'm doing good. How are you, David? I've been busy, been working out. So like I told David, I was just working out. We do it at 6 o'clock. We went a little bit late today. We do it for like this extreme type workout for an hour. And I look at the clock and say, oh my gosh, it's 7:20. So I had to stop, take a shower, get my homemade fresh ginger tea, and
Nice.
here I am. And then our power went out right before me and David went on, and so I had to redo my computer and everything. But we're here and we're on time. So how about you, David? What you been
really
up to?
Good. I believe that we're coming out of lockdown at 11:59 tonight. So
good.
I'll get my freedom back tonight. Melbourne's not, though. They're going to be in it for another 6 weeks. But
wow.
I know it's bad for Melbourne, poor Melbourne, but we at least get out the end of this week. But it doesn't affect my business really, because most of my work comes from the Melbourne region, the metropolitan region anyway. So weddings are still no good because we can only have 10 people, I think, at a wedding or something. So, I mean, that's useless because by the time you put the bridegroom and the celebrant, it's just not workable. So the weddings certainly won't be happening this year. But we're out, so at least I can start getting out and doing some shooting again, which is great because I've missed that for the last 4 weeks. I think we've been in lockdown here in country. But luckily today, the number's down. We've got less than 5 per day now of cases.
Oh, good.
So we're really, really low. So they made the announcement yesterday that we're going to come out. So it's great. We can go back to restaurants and have a drink and, do all that sort of stuff again. So sorry, the people in Melbourne. I mean, the funny thing is, Aaron, I'm right on the border. So,
wow. So
a few Ks away, they're in lockdown and they've got a hard lockdown border. So they've got police stopping traffic coming in through the roads. They're actually pulling everyone over. And if they're outside, you're only allowed to travel 5 kilometres. Which is probably 2.5 miles or something.
Wow.
If you go outside that, you get a $1,600 fine.
Ouch.
So yeah, it's quite funny because Kerry works in Melbourne and she gets stopped every night. And she has to show proof that she works.
Yeah.
They pull you over and they check it thoroughly.
Wow.
So, interesting times.
I had my second photo. I mean, I work every day doing product photography, but I did one portrait, last month of a couple. They were going to have a baby. And then I did my first other photos on my second photo shoot just Saturday. So we're kind of going out and getting some work. So that's kind of fun. Once I got over there and I started taking photos of the client, man, it just all kicked in. I got real excited because I just, doing product photography, it's a job type thing. You don't get too creative, but then once I got over there, man, she probably thought I was crazy. I was just moving furniture and stuff all around and just doing all this stuff. So yeah, it's exciting when you get out and do your first photo shoot when it's been a while. So
yeah, I can't wait.
John Drummond, I'll be seeing you in a couple weeks.
Who?
John Drummond. I might be going to New York in a few weeks.
Oh, cool. You're going to go up there, are you?
Yeah, business trip. So I don't know how many days I'll be there, but it's going to probably be a quick one. But got to get out there. We usually go twice a year, and already we haven't been been there even once this year. So yeah, we might have to go here in a couple weeks.
Well, you might be able to pick up your Sony A7C while you're there, Aaron.
Maybe. I mean, I pre-ordered 2 of them, one for each handbag that I have.
I love it. Rob also said here, I was just reading his comment that he's took on the weekend. He's got an A7R3 and he has got 100 to 400 GM, and he gave the workout. He said he went to the air show. Very happy with them.
I saw those photos. Yeah,
really I did too. They were in the photography videography school. Great combination.
Yep.
What else? John, g'day, John. How are you? Hello from New York City. Gym's finally reopened here too with many rules and restrictions. No worry about that though. Yep, that's fine. I think we're going to be living with these restrictions until they basically, give us an injection to get over it, I suppose. Who else have we got? George is saying greeting from New Jersey.
Yeah, John, I know.
Where we're underwhelmed by the Sony A7C. Well, we're going to certainly talk about that yesterday. Now, I believe the happy photographer was, took over my channel again yesterday, Aaron.
I know, I saw that. I forgot. I'm sitting here talking. I forgot all about that. Oh my gosh, that's so hilarious. I forgot that you do stuff like that.
Dropped in or something.
Oh, that's true. What do you call that thing? Behind the scene boardroom meeting. You even had the same sound effect. Oh my God.
He put a comment in this morning. He said, I knew there'd be a boardroom meeting. He said that.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was quite funny. I knew he'd take the good side of it. I don't know if the happy photographer will be happy.
Well, I loved how you had the same sound effect. I hope you got your other sound effect ready for when we get into the conversation.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
What did Tad? Oh, let me quit.
Sony is the new Canon. That's probably talking about the cripple hammer.
I should have done that. I was so tempted to do the cripple hammer. I might still do that one day. I've said to Casey, I've said to him all along, I'm going to end up, doing a thing on you as well.
Like a spin-off,
I think. This A7C is a joke. Who will buy this? Well, we're going to talk about that. That's all we're talking about today, guys. So it's a special show today. We're really just going through that release. We were going to do it on the night, but Aaron went to bed. He was that bored.
I said, well, the live Sony event starts in 5 minutes. I'm going to bed. Good night.
I love it.
The thing is, well, we'll get into it later.
John said, that's cool. New York City still a little more restricted than the rest of the state, though. Yeah, you'd expect that, though. That's
why us going there isn't, I mean, it's exciting just to be there. I love the city. It's like my favorite city. London is my second. Paris is up there in the top 3. But going there now is a little kind of me. But hey, you know what? We got to go, and I just enjoy looking at the city anyway. So. Yeah,
exactly. I'm loving all the comments about the A7C, so it's quite funny. Altric's also here. He made it today, and congratulations, Altric. Altric got a new job, and he's moving his whole family to Texas.
Who?
Altric.
Oh, wow. Where does he live now?
I can't remember. I think he lives up north.
California
Yeah, the north of America somewhere. He'll probably chime in, but he's basically moving his whole family down to Texas. He's got a new job in transport, so that's exciting for him.
That's John pretty exciting.
David, your video was hilarious. Oh, thanks so much. I'm glad you liked it. You've got to have a bit of a sense of humor, and it's typical of us Aussies the way we are, we we love that sort of stuff.
Well, I'll fit right in because I'm all like goofy. I don't show my goofiness as much as in real life, but I can get pretty goofy too.
Oh, I've seen it. I'll never forget
no,
Vegas,
you've seen it. When me and David get together, we can't even talk. We're just laughing the whole time. Oh,
that transition sounder is classic. I need it myself. Casey's a great musician. Oh, no, I loved it. I thought, oh, God, I hope he doesn't mind me using it, but he was fine. I mean, we talk to Casey all the time. John said, hi, guys. Sony seems like they are trying to pull a fast one with this A7C. It looks like everyone's really...
Most people, the majority, not everybody, but we'll talk about it. I'm not going to be so harsh on it as some people might think, but yeah, I understand. I got more of a clear vision of what it is now.
But you said the angry non-photographer is thumbing down again. Yeah, I noticed we've got the usual one that pops in.
Isn't that funny?
Don't worry about the thumbs down. Like I said, they still give the channel engagement, which is funny. Sony A7 III equals A7 cripple. Oh, my God. Langston's here as well. I have no comment on the A7C. He's not even commenting on it.
I know. He's just like, no comment.
Dustin said, bottom line, the A7 III needs to either be sub $1,200 United States dollars or have 4K 60 at its current price. You're talking about the A7C, I think, not the A7 III. what else have we got? Sony really set themselves up putting naming that camera with a C. I know they did. The thing was too, they really should have called it something else. I think it probably should have been an A5 or something. I just don't think it really is an A7 camera. The A7 camera should be sticking with those bigger bodies, I think, rather than what they've done with that. But anyway, there we go. So we've caught up with what people are saying in the chat. So I thought what we'd do is we just, like I said, we're just going to go through everything about the camera today, what our thoughts are and everything else. So I thought today what we could do...
Comparisons?
Yeah, comparisons and stuff like that against other cameras, you know, size, weight,
But
things
you got
like
those
that
photos
as well.
by any chance?
Yeah, I've got some here that we can go through. So, so we'll start off. Let me just share this screen. Actually, before I do that, let me just clear those comments. All right, so let me go share the screen and application and this one. So I thought we could start off today, Aaron, looking at the body before we go through the specs. So we can have a look at the body shape, how it sort of compares to the other Sony mirrorless cameras that are out there. So we could sort of look at that. So I mean, I actually don't mind the look of the camera itself. I think the camera itself is reasonably quite pretty. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's retro? Do you like the look of it?
I absolutely love the look of it. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, I was going to get some photos up for you guys to see. Some of you guys know, many of you guys don't, but I actually put skins on my A7 III to kind of look like this thing with the silver top, you know, and I always, when I had the Fuji with the silver top. So I love the silver top on the cameras, and this one actually looks really nice. I have no complaints over the looks of the camera at all. I actually like it. So yeah. Plus.
I do like the silver top. You can see both actually on the screen here anyway, but I actually like the silver top.
I do too, and I like rangefinders. I like the way they kind of look.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like that. If you look too at the top, you can see the main differences here is the little record button that you're getting on. So they're sort of saying that this is targeted towards videographers. So that's what that's sort of about. You can see on the dial up through here too that you do have your normal modes, which is manual, shutter, aperture, and P priority mode. There's also an auto. You do have three memory banks that you can set things up there. You've also got S&Q and your movie mode. So that's on the dial. I just sort of wish though, looking at the design of this camera though, that they made the EVF the same sort of silver as the top there. I think that would have looked nicer. I mean, what do you think, Aaron? Are you quite happy with that being black the way it is?
Yeah, but it's not, I don't think it stands out too much. I'm not worried. It doesn't affect me, I don't think, whether it would be silver or black. Silver probably would look a little better, but I'm okay with it.
Couple of the bad things about this though is that I think being a full frame camera, that they're targeting this above the APS-C type cameras. They should have had a front wheel there that you could have your aperture and shutter speed separated. I know you can use the dial at the back, but it's clunky, Aaron. It's not good. You've used the A6000 series, Aaron, and stuff, haven't you? And it's a bit clunky if you want to shoot manual.
Yeah, it's a little bit clunky. You know, aperture priority modes or something like that, it's no big deal. You could use the back one. Most of the time, though, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, for one, if this is an A7, they should have put the wheel there, or they, like you said, they should have called it A655.
Yeah, this is the issue.
Something. Yeah, so if this is an A7 camera, they should have at least put the dial there. Now, we could sit here and say they should have did, and that's probably what we're going to be doing all night. But if it's an A7, you'd think it should. However, when I'm shooting and I'm using aperture priority, or even if I'm using manual, typically I'll set the aperture, and I don't really sit there and move that aperture much throughout the whole, photo shoot. It depends, you know, I mean, of course, like if we're going from this room and then we're going to go outside and then I want to see more in the background or blur it out more, of course I'm, changing the aperture, but it's not something that I'm just changing all the time. Like the last photo shoot I did Saturday, it was for a woman who owns a business. So it was like a corporate type photo shoot slash lifestyle where, you know, I'm taking photos of her working on her iPad or her computer and her phone. And then of course, portraits and her sitting in her office, that type of stuff. And I didn't move the aperture at all. I had it at f2.8. When I shot her and her assistant, I shot at f5.6 or f8 just because they both need to be in focus. But for the 3 hours, I almost never changed the aperture really. At f2.8 on the Tamron, most everything I needed in focus is fine. So I don't really change it that much. So when I use the A6000, I don't need it that much. But an A7, you think it should have what the A7 has. So that's my take on the front wheel. I can live without it, but it should have it, I think.
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, if it was called an A5 or something like that, or a totally different name, it doesn't really matter. And I think too, because they're targeting this at beginners, at like entry level, it's their entry level type camera. They're probably thinking that people are going to leave it on aperture mode and then just use the compensation wheel, which you've got right here anyway, to adjust your exposure.
That should be a dial itself.
Yeah. So that's probably the way most of them will work. They'll either be working in auto or using it in aperture mode and then just adjusting your exposure compensation to get that. But there is things like for me, I mean, lacking dials. This hasn't got anywhere near the same dials, you know, like even an A6-600 has. So you do lack those quick sort of function keys that you can click onto, those quick keys to have settings and things work. So it is lacking that as well. The other thing really is, I know even when I'm using my A6-400, that the EVF on these is really, it's not that easy to use. And I do tend to use the EVF a lot when I'm doing critical exposure, because outside particularly you can't see the back screen. Now this is the typical crappy back screen. Sony must have bought 1 billion of these that's sitting in a warehouse somewhere, and they're saying we're just going to keep using them for the next 10 years. I don't know, but you know, it's just this crappy. Well, it's not even 1 million dots. I don't think it's 900,000 something or other. Like, it's awful compared to the competition that's out there. The screen on the back, Aaron.
Let me chime in on the EVF now. That's one thing. I use the A6000 quite often, actually, when it first came out or within the first year. I use them for weddings and stuff, and it was really difficult for me to use that small EVF. I didn't wear glasses then. I don't wear glasses now. These are reading glasses, but so I'm not someone who wears glasses. But when I'm just using without glasses, those small little viewfinders, man, they're just so. I just feel like I'm straining so much, and especially even outside. We did this couple's love story out on the beach, and just having that sun come in, and I was really struggling trying to use that small thing for me. And today I actually asked, I can't remember his name. We actually talked about him. He uses the A6000 for most of his photography. He posts a lot on our Facebook group. Do you remember his name, David?
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, we just talked about him like a couple weeks ago. But I asked him, I said, do you use the EVF or do you use the back screen? Because I noticed quite a bit of people actually just use the back screen. You know, they're holding it out in front of them, taking photos. And he says he uses the EVF most of the time and it doesn't bother him. So some people it doesn't bother. For me, it really was a hassle. And, you know, I am used, well, this doesn't, you know, cell phones don't have an EVF. So clearly anytime I use a cell phone to take a photo, I'm looking at the back. So I said, could I just get used to using the back of the screen?
Thank you, Langston.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Amazing photos that he takes with that A6000. So I took 2 photos of an employee at the place I do jewelry photography just yesterday, I think. And I said, let me just use the back of the screen to see how I do. And just so happens that if I don't have reading glasses, I can't really see that close. And my back was against the wall, and I wanted the shot to where it was, and the camera would be like this close, and I can't see it. So now I'm like, oh, I can't see. So I had to use the EVF anyways. So I'm going to try to see if I can do without it. So for me, an EVF is really important because I probably use it 95% of the time. The only time I don't use it is on cameras that have a flippy screen. So when I'm doing low shots, vertical, I can flip the screen down like, you know, how the Fujis are or whatever. And then I don't use the EVF because I don't have to lay flat on the ground. If I don't have the flippy screen, I have to lay on the ground. So to put it simply, I live inside the EVF. I'm in there like 95% of the time or more. So those are kind of hard.
I do, if I'm shooting stills, I very rarely ever use the EVF unless it's really, really bright and I can't see the screen at all. I'm 90% probably using the back screen. But the second I go into video where it's critical, and I don't worry so much with stills because I know I've got so much leeway in how much I can sort of edit the files if the exposure is not so critical. But see, in video, you can't do that. So you've got to be far more critical in video than you do what you have in stills, because you can't have RAW out of these cameras where you can edit if you underexpose or whatever, or you clip the highlights a little bit. So exposure is critical. So the back screen's not good enough half of the time because you can't really see it good enough. So I'll tend to use the EVF and check critical exposure that way. And that's how usually I'll get the exposure really, really close. And then I'll only have to do a very, very minor edit later on. But it's particularly hard with the EVF on these type cameras, particularly if you wear glasses, because that EVF is tiny. I mean, Jared Poland talked about it in his video review of this camera, and he said the EVF was awful. You could hardly read the text or anything inside it. It was really bad. And that's, I suppose, where they've cut down the money.
Well, the funny thing about that is you're using the back, you're using the EVF for video, whereas everybody I see that talk about this says, the video people, who needs the EVF? And I'm like,
yeah, but
they're like completely opposite.
It's sunny here, Aaron. Well, like you are. If I'm trying to get exposure on a bright sunny day, if I'm doing a wedding and you've got the sun there, you can't see the EVF on the back of these cameras. You just can't see it.
The screen.
So,
yeah, that's why I don't understand how people are selling, or I think they're just taking what Sony tells them and then they just repeat it, because I mean, for a video person, I just said I do that for photography as well, but especially for video, I mean, I want to know if things are in focus. I want to know composition and who's moving in. And I mean, and also the stability of holding the camera like this and holding it instead of like holding it out here. I mean, it's just like, for me, video, it's a must have, so much so that Zacuto and all these other companies made loops or whatever they call it, EVF covers for this purpose. So when I hear reviewers saying, who needs the EVF if you're a video shooter? I'm like, I grew up thinking like that's an absolute must have. So I don't know. I guess I'm old school now. I guess everybody just holds it out like this and tries to see. I mean, how do you see if it's in focus or exposure out in the bright sun? I mean, I don't know. So you're using it like I do, at least in video, is I need that EVF. Hey, Photomiac, how you doing?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, often people will say, well, how do you nail your exposure so well? Because I'm not using S-Log. I'm usually just using the standard profile. And people will always say that in the videos that I post. How did you know your exposure, or what profile you're doing? And I'm just using the standard profile, but what I'm doing is I'm nailing exposure. And it's really hard to see that if you are using the back screen, particularly. Look, it's fine if it's late or in the afternoon and there's not that bright sunlight, but if you're in bright sun, particularly on these Sony screens, you cannot see it well enough.
Yeah,
you have to use the EVF to judge exposure correctly.
Yeah, so they're saying video people don't need it. I'm like, everybody has their own way of shooting, I guess. I mean, I'm not trying to tell everybody you got to do it my way, but my gosh, all these companies made these loops for a reason, because you want that electronic viewfinder and you want to really see what's going on. And I mean, it's just something, unless you have a really big monitor or something, then with a good sunshade on it. I think Langston just said something, DPs that use monitors, which they also use sunshades on those, and someone's using the EVF. So yeah, it's like, I mean, maybe they're talking about just for vlogging when you're holding it out. Yeah, naturally, maybe that's what they're talking about.
Maybe.
Holding it out,
George said too, hope this isn't Sony's way of saying APS-C is dead. It is going to be interesting now to see what they do with APS-C, though.
Well, who would buy an A6? Unless you are an APS shooter for wildlife or sports where you need that fast shutter like they have, and the reach, smaller lenses, even though they don't have a lot of lenses and they haven't made many for them. It's just kind of interesting, that whole APS-C thing. I don't think they're going to get rid of it. There's still a lot of people that have it. They're still cheaper than this full frame camera anyway, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Like Josh said too, it's the LCD is 900K, the EVF is 2.4 million dots. It's the same as what you've got in the A7 III. So the EVF is reasonable. Look, it's not as good as looking at, say, something like the A9 or the new A7R4, which is even better, or the A7S III is going to be amazing. But the EVF is certainly usable. It's more the back screen is the issue here.
One thing to note is that the continuous autofocus in photography is so good that you almost don't even need a screen for focus purposes, you know, to nail focus, but it's still for that composition in bright light is where you need it. But yeah, focus is like my A7 III just like hits it like I don't even know when it's ever missed really. So for focus purposes, not necessary, but for framing up in bright light and then having that little thing. I remember A6000 doing a wedding in that little thing, and it just really killed me. But I forget his name again, the guy we were talking about with the A6000. Yeah, he says he did a wedding for I forget how many hours and it didn't bug him. So there are people that don't mind it. So, you know.
Now, further down, you can see there's one good aspect that, well, it's good and bad, actually. If you look here, they have moved the card location away from the battery. I suppose that's now because the battery compartment is so big with the Z battery. But they've moved the card into this location over here. But the issue is with the way that this now works is if you are using something like a USB to charge up, you can't fold the rear screen. So you can, I'll fold it out, but you can't push it forward. Excuse me. So these get in the way now if you want to turn the actual screen around, but I don't know how they could get around that. But it has only got one card slot.
I was waiting for it. Like, when's he going to push the button?
So it's only got one card slot. And you can sort of see down here too, and this is one of the biggest disappointments as well, is that they've actually, the screen at the back is not the touch interface, and it's the same interface as the A7.
Can you hit the button, please?
I mean, seriously. Why on earth would they have not have put the new processor in this camera? It's not like you're getting it cheap, really, because, I mean, what is it? Nearly, it's $1,800 United States. Surely they could have put the new processor in. I'm surprised because I really thought that all the cameras that came out from this point on would have had that same touch interface and the same new menu.
It's always been like that with every manufacturer, right?
Yeah, it's nuts.
They come out with the new menu setup and it just carries on from there. Even if they didn't put full touch in it or something, but at least you have the pretty colors and something refreshing and new for people who shot Sony all these years. Like, just at least give me something different to look at, even though it's not going to make you any better photographer and all that. Well, most of the stuff won't, but it's just kind of nice that, hey, you would think it's a new camera, so you think they would have it, but what's coming out first? This one's going to be out on the market first, or the A7S III? So maybe they can.
The A7S III is, I believe, I know.
What if this came out first? Then they could say, "Oh no, it's the A7 III, the new one." So.
It's shipping in the UK now, I believe, the A7S III. So it is shipping in there. Philip Bloom just posted an image on the A7S thing that he got his delivered today. So
so
it's starting to ship over there.
So yeah, no new menu. I do kind of agree with you, Ike. There, the A7C, as much of a joke it is, will come in handy for a lot of folks like myself. But that price, and I think that's it. It's like, you know, I love my A6000. I really love the small form factor and all that stuff. So this is really great, but yeah, then the price is like, the price kind of kills it. So
it does.
If they would have put if they would have put that new juicy menu in it, that would probably persuade more people like, I got to see this thing, you know, and get it just for something new and refreshing. But the price, and then they don't have that. So you do feel like you're kind of, you know, buying into an old camera already. It's like once you purchase it, it's like, I just bought an old camera, you know?
Well, see, so it's got the same touch interface as what the A7 III has. It's got the... hasn't got the new menus, so it's got the same menus that the A7 III has. See, the thing is, and also, how much did everyone bag Nikon for bringing out a full-frame camera that only had one card slot? Sony should have seen that, and they've done the exact same thing.
It's an A7. They should have put the front dial and two card slots, or
exactly.
one or the other.
It's crazy. And like I said, if this was released 2 years ago, I honestly would have thought this is fantastic. It's brilliant. But in today's standards... it's a very mediocre delivery.
Let me tell you my idea. This is when the Sony A7 III came out, let's just say 3 years ago, they called it the entry level camera, and everybody was like, how is this entry level? It's like a full blown full frame camera, and nobody understood how it's like what did I just call it? The bottom tier? What I can't remember what I just called it. Not the mid grade. What did we call this? I just said it.
It's the entry level.
The entry level. If this is the entry level camera, what I think they should have had 3 years ago was the A7C as the entry level, because then it would make sense. Like, wow, this is a cheap full frame camera. It has one card slot. It doesn't have the EVF or whatever. And 3 years later, today, they should be putting out the A7 III. Because then people would say, for only $200 more, you're getting 2 card slots. You're getting the EVF, full EVF. You're getting all this good stuff on the new A7 III. And then 3 years from now, the A7 IV. That sounds like it would make more sense. And maybe they found like, oh, we kind of made a mistake. We should have kind of did that. So now they're kind of releasing it anyways. But now you still got the A7 III and this. Do they discontinue the A7 III in a couple years? And now we have the entry level A7C and then the A4. And so I don't know.
See, the interesting thing here is that this is a good chart because this shows the A7C. It also shows the A7 III and it shows the A6600. You can see they've all got the same sensor, probably all got the same processor. The video resolution is exactly the same. I mean, they've still put 4K 30p 8-bit 420 in a 2020 camera. I mean, like it's still 8-bit. Like even if they'd given 10 bits or something, to have that, remember, this is a video-centric camera. They're saying that this was a video-centric camera more aimed at videographers and stuff like that. Well, you've got a terrible back screen. You've got okay EVF. You haven't got a touch interface that you have. It's missing the same touch sort of menu system like the A7S3.
I mean, can you imagine if they would have just put the menu system in with the full touch, you flip that screen to you, and now from the front, you can click stuff and click on record or whatever you can. I mean, just some cool things like that and mess around with stuff. And, ooh, let me see exposure down on that. Let's up. Oh, there. Ooh, my audio's not right. But now you still have to go to the back or feel it. Like, I mean, yeah. So if the A7C is for video with no new, well, it has tracking, whatever, which I never.
Yeah, it has tracking.
Whatever. But what was the A7 III then? That's not for video either, because it's the same codec. And
I mean, if you look at the autofocus both have 693 AF points. It's exactly the same. The A6600, if you look over there, has 425. But that basically works out to the same anyway because the sensor is smaller, so it doesn't need as many autofocus points as what the other two cameras does.
Don't have to stretch them out.
So that's fine. So really, the only advantage, I suppose, is that I would think, but I think, but if you look at Tony Northrup, I don't know what was going on with Tony Northrup's, but he had real issues with focus. But you would think that the A7C would be better. It's definitely beat the A7 III because it has the tracking involved. So you have got the tracking now, the touch tracking that you can then follow stuff, which they haven't got on the A7 III, which they could put on because I guarantee it's probably the same processor and everything in there that if they can't run the menus, I guarantee it is the same processor. So that just shows that they could have put that touch tracking into the A7 III, but they're just refusing to do it. It's got the same... Sorry, Aaron, what were you going to say?
No, keep going.
Same 5-axis in-body stabilization, but a few of the reviews that I've seen out online, it may be a little bit worse than what the A7 III is. So that's a bit of a worry. Or it's about the same. But why on earth did they not bring out the same active tracking or active stabilization that they've got in the ZV-1 and also the A7S III?
This is a
if
video
they're marketing
camera.
this at vloggers and bloggers and stuff,
exactly.
Why haven't they added that?
Yeah, so I think that's just a buzzword they're using, really. I think this camera is remember, camera manufacturers aren't, of course they want to sell cameras, so they're saying, well, what does people want or need? But what's best for us to make money and to carry this as, they probably have 10-year, outlook on, well, if we make this now in 10 years, what can we do as a company? So that's what they're doing first and foremost, but giving people just enough to get it. So I think that's what this is to just up price the A7 IV. So that's why I think this isn't making sense, because, and then I think they put that vlogger thing out there just because it has a flippy screen, you know, because there's the 28 millimeter lens that it comes with, which we might talk about, and then the image stabilization is worse than the A7 III, and yet it's a vlogger's camera. So I'm not buying that whole vlogger camera thing.
The other thing too, you can see here, it's got exactly the same EVF. It's the 2.36 million dot EVF.
Is that the same as what?
Yeah, so it's the same on all of them. So the A7C, the A7 III, and the A6600 all have the same basic touch screen. The media, the only difference is the A7 III has dual UHS, well, it has UHS 1 card and a UHS 2 card. So the A7 III is the only one that has the dual cards. They both take the same battery, and you can sort of see the weight dimensions there are not really that much different. You know, look, by the time you're putting the lenses on these things and stuff, and I'm going to show comparisons in the next page where we can look at the difference between the two of them, is not that great. The other thing that is really weird though, Aaron, is that they've included it. They're saying that this is the vloggers and whatever camera, but they've put a 28 to 60 mil on there. It's
so
nowhere
weird.
near wide enough. I don't understand that they're thinking in that
They
regard.
should have just came out with like a 20 millimeter prime lens or something.
Yeah, something like that.
For vloggers, or at least image stabilization. But then, yeah, it might get bigger, but at least, you know, like a 20 millimeter, or at least a 24. I mean, something. The 28 is everybody always complains. I mean, I don't vlog much holding cameras, but I mean, everybody says 28's not enough. So, yeah.
Well, you can see it extending here too, that it does extend out of the barrel if you're looking at it. I mean, it's interesting though, because everyone, when they looked at the reviews of the ZV-1, was saying that it wasn't wide enough. And that was what everyone was saying, that the ZV-1 is not wide enough to vlog with. And so they bring out a worse lens for this from the beginning, which is 28, because the ZV-1 is a 24 mil. Interesting. Oh, another thing too, there was a flash, it's mentioned here, mounts with this. I'll just quickly show that. That's this flash unit here, which is, it's called the HVL F28RM, and it looks like really quite a nice little flash that would fit with this camera. It's lovely
swivel.
And small. Yeah,
it looks like it swivel though.
Yeah,
it just goes up and down. No,
yeah,
it doesn't.
It
I
does
looked
just
it
go
up
up and down. Yes, it just goes up and down. Looking at that there, there's a swivel.
Yeah, so you can't do any bounce or nothing offside the walls.
No, you can't go sideways.
Like unless you can it point straight up, because then you can, you know,
yeah.
If it points straight up, then you can, you know, face it that way, but then face the camera that way, and kind of.
Yeah, it may even go back. Let me just see if it shows.
If it goes back,
I don't want to.
You might be able to get around to something.
2 minutes, but
I've done that before. Just push it straight up and bounce.
Just trying to see if it shows it.
Yeah. I think I watched that. I don't think I seen them do any pointing it up. Someone here sold their A6000 and bought a A6100. That's not bad. That 6100 is pretty good. If you love the A6000, 6100, I think so. Probably one of the better ones to get for price and all that stuff. And then don't know how to say your name. I can't read it from here, my eyesight. But he loves his GX85. I love that. I had that camera. I've had 2 of them. GX85 is great.
What else? Oh, now let's look at some comparisons. I just wanted to go through a couple of specs before we do that. So this is a 24 megapixel camera. It's effective of 24.2 megapixels. I just wanted to go down here too, because this is bad. I mean, this is really bad. That the mechanical shutter is only 1/4000th of a second. That is nuts. I mean, that is just dead cripple hammer type stuff there, because
it's an A7.
This is the problem too, that does cause issues, because particularly if you're going to use this as a full-on camera, stills camera, and you're trying to use this in sunlight and things like that, 1/4000th of a second can be a real issue, particularly if you're trying to, say, overpower the sun with different flashes, things like that, using high-speed sync. 1/4000th is terrible, it's not good at all.
Now, I'll be honest, like so far, the camera, I like the camera a lot. Everything looks good. The single card slot, I use my A6000, so that type of thing, one car slide. But here's where we start getting to where it's like, just an extra punch where it's like, oh, why'd they have to do that? And that is, that 4,000th of a second.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, like, why'd they have to do that? Now, I heard that they put a new shutter mechanism in here, so maybe it's not fast enough or something. I don't get it, but that is a cripple that I don't know if they could get around that. Maybe just something with that new shutter mechanism that they just couldn't, but I don't know why, but maybe it's just slower, or they're just crippling it. So to keep you to keep you going to the A7 III and spending the 200 extra more type, how they're playing with those games all the time. So are you going to go on the sync speed as well?
Yeah, I will. Okay. But see, it's interesting because you've got 1/8,000th on the electronic shutter, but the rolling shutter in this won't be good. It'll be exactly the same as the A7 III, and I don't really use it for the fact that you do get those rolling shutter issues. But 1/4000th, I don't think there's any excuse for that. When you're paying this sort of money for this type of camera, you shouldn't have that at all. I'm just looking down. You can get up to 10 frames per second, which is okay.
Yeah, I'm not a big shoot a lot.
What else we're looking at?
Like that.
The video recording is a disappointment in the fact that you've only got up to the 30 p for the 4K, and it's 420 8-bit. That's a real disappointment.
Yeah.
That there is autofocus sensitivity has been improved from the
that's a good
A7
thing.
III. It's -4 now you can use it from. It's -3 on the A7 III, so it will focus better in low light.
Now, here's the thing, though. With focusing, of course, technology has to progress, but I have zero issues with my Sony A7 III. Like, literally zero. I've never sat there, whether I was doing a wedding or whatever, and just, I'm sure some people will have issues like, I was in a situation, but it just works all the time. So I know they want to always do better and have bragging rights. Like, we got the fastest focus ever, but there comes a point where it's just like, my A7 III never misses. So that's not a big deal for me, but it's good that they're upping it, but it's not enough to go like, oh my God, this camera's going to be so much better. So.
Yeah. The other big one too is that the maximum sync speed.
Yeah. Why would they do that?
1/160th. So not only are you limited to 1/4000th of a second, but you're limited to 1/160th of a second as well in the flash sync speed.
Yeah. I guess HSS fixes that though. If you're using, what do you call it? HSS?
High-speed sync, yes, but the problem is you lose power the second you go outside of that. See,
that's true.
I found often if I'm dealing with working outside now, and I'm using a flash that's not quite powerful enough, I'll end up using an ND, and then you can sort of take it up to 250th of a second and still then get a beautiful result without not having too much flash there. But the problem is here, you link to 160th of a second. That's a big difference between... say your A7 III. This is why really I honestly think I would recommend the A7 III over this, because not only do you get 1/8000th of a second, you get I think it's 1/250th of a second in the flash, as well as getting your dual card slots.
And you get all your same video codecs. You get better IBIS so much. The only thing you're doing is it's a little bit of a bigger camera, but you're getting so much more. It's just... yeah, it's crazy. Now, the other thing, if we're talking about shutter, the other thing I heard two people talk about, I don't remember who it was, but apparently you have the electronic front curtain or whatever that is on. You cannot turn it off. And, yeah, and I've heard in the past people were having problems, on the A7 III, I forget his name. Backgrounds aren't as blurry as you're getting. I forget his name. Manny Ortiz. Manny Ortiz. Yeah. I remember he made a big stink about when that is turned on, the backgrounds aren't as blurry with your f1 point whatever lens. Where when you turn that off, your backgrounds are blurrier. He did a big thing on that. People were like, "Are you serious? Are you really getting that picky?" But hey, it's a good thing to say, because you think you're shooting at f1.8 and getting that type of blur, but once you turn it on, you're actually getting like an f2 or something like that. But not only that, is the front electronic curtain turn on does have some misfires with some of the Godox flashes. So,
and you can get banding too.
Yeah, stuff like that. So apparently you can't turn it off. Two different people, and I don't remember what the reviewer said, you can't turn it off. So there's another thing. So now you might, and I use Godox all the time. So now you might have an issue with the Godox. Maybe two people said it, so let's just go based on that. And
well,
then
they say if you're above 1/2000th of a second, you should turn that front curtain sync off.
So I don't know if it's like an auto thing now or whatever, but still, you got that. You've got 160th of a sync, and you've got 1/4000th of a shutter. So those are just the extra punch in my gut that me like, forget it.
Yeah, there's also no mention about the shutter life. I haven't sort of seen that mentioned. Anyway, now let's look at size, because this is also interesting. If you look at the size comparison here, I really don't think there's much in this. If you look at the three cameras here, that's the A6-600 on the right-hand side. That's the A7 III and the A7C there. Really, the only difference is the A7 III, they've just cut the viewfinder, the EVF off the top. That's really the only difference when you look at it.
And the mode dial is just like flatter. That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if you, by the time you put a lens on this and you're lugging it around, there's not really that much difference. In fact, if you did want to really go small, then you really should consider the A6-600. Or the A6-400.
That's what I told my friend today. If you want something small and lightweight, definitely go with the A6000 series. The A60-600 has the Z battery. That's why I would kind of say go for that if you want to not mess around with batteries. But if you're just out shooting and you're not doing weddings and you don't want, to really be scared of a battery, A60-600. If you're just even shooting portraits where you have time, like, oh, dead battery, let me switch, then any of the other 6000s. And if you want anything else, just go with the couple centimeters taller on the A7 III, and it's only $200. So I know $200 is a lot of money for people, but if you just have to, let's say, pull $50 out of your paycheck for just a couple months or so, just to get an A7 III, I think it's way much better camera, unless you absolutely, what you do is need that flippy screen. I love flippy screens, but I don't need it that much to give up that much for only $200 and only this much taller.
Well, the thing is too, like, see, you've got the C1, C2 button at the top. Well, you've lost one of those. I suppose you could reprogram the your video record button there. But you can see you've got C1, C2 on the back of this. You've got the joystick. You've also got all these programmable buttons that you've got through the back through here that are not on this. So this is way more customizable than what the A7C is, like way more customizable. It's a pity they couldn't have given they could have probably put in a couple more customizable buttons through there. But now, when you think that the price is fairly close, and if you shop around, you could probably get one almost for the same money if you shopped around. That's for sure. I honestly believe that probably by Christmas, this will be down to $1,500. I don't think they can sell it. They'll get the fanboys that sort of are there, want it, because it's new, and they'll go out and buy this sort of for the price it is. But I think by Christmas, this is going to have a major drop, because I think it's overpriced. It should have been $1,500 United States dollars.
Yeah. Now with that price, I don't feel like I would complain as much or be more, because I really do like the camera. I want everybody to be honest. I like the camera. I mean, I think the only thing is even the EVF, it's fine. It needs to be small. Okay. The only thing is that dual card slide is the only thing really hold me back. And then those shutter speeds and all that stuff. But I like the camera. I don't know if that little red record button on top could be reprogrammable. That would be kind of cool.
I'd say it would be able to be.
Yeah, if you're a photographer. I mean, let me tell you guys, to be honest with you, I actually run out of ideas on where I should put my custom buttons, because I really don't use that many. I know that's odd for most people. I literally, like on the A7 III, they have the dial. I literally have the ISO where it's on there already. So that's already there for me. And then on the two buttons on the top, I just put my shutter speed. So when I do aperture priority, I set my lowest shutter speed, and the other one is white balance. That's all I use. So I could literally remap this to fit my needs if I could change that red record button to something else. So yeah, I mean, for the money, you're getting more customizability, even though I don't use all that much. So I could really make that camera work, but for the price, and just the fact that it just feel with those shutter speeds. That's the real thing that's bugging me, which isn't a whole bunch, but I don't know. I would probably just go with an A6000 if it's size that really makes the difference or matters. You know, you can take photos like our friend takes it with a 6000. You would never know. And I used to use Micro Four Thirds, and no one knows the difference, especially if you're using flash or exposing properly and using light like you should. Nobody really knows the difference anyway. So A6000, go with that if you want something small.
Yeah, that's what I sort of think too. I mean, and we've discussed this before. If you put decent lenses on the A6000 series type cameras, like we discussed with ISA last week, you'll never pick the difference over that with full frame anyway.
Nah, nobody knows.
You just can't tell
Who
the
knows?
difference. Yeah.
Who knows? Who's watching your stuff and going through Instagram or looking at a print, or someone, a model looking at her photos, or someone flipping through a magazine like this right here? And is anybody going to know? Nobody knows. You know, and that might bother you because you might know, but nobody knows. So, you know, I still like full frame because why I like the full frame Sony cameras is I fell in love with the Tamron 28-75 and the Zeiss 55. Those are really the only reason why I'm kind of sticking with full frame, unless I would probably just go APS-C Sony cameras. I like smaller cameras. Although I do like the idea of the Sigma Trio. That looks kind of, you can almost get a full frame look out of those because they're f1.4s. But really, it's those two lenses on the full frame is why I kind of stick around, and I like the EVF and the dual card slots. So there's a lot to like about the full frame. It's not necessarily just that full frame sensor for me. So,
like Joshua said, this is a B camera, travel camera. I don't know why everyone insists on trying to replace their A7 III with it. Well, I certainly wouldn't replace an A7 III with this camera.
I don't think it's a replacement.
No,
yeah, it's not a replacement. I think it's just another option. I think it's for them to increase the price of the A7 IV, so they don't have to price it close to what the A7 III was, which was a ridiculously low price. I think that's what this camera is kind of for. David said before this thing came out that he thinks it's just another option for people to get, and I think that's just it. Another thing is people shouldn't get mad either, because this isn't like a camera like we were hoping the A7 IV is, and then this came out instead of that. It's not even that. It's just an extra camera. To get it or don't get it, I don't think people should be mad about it.
I'm worried about pricing of the A7 IV though.
That's
if
the
they're
thing.
pricing this at $1,800 United States dollars, what are they going to price the A7 IV at?
I think that's the plan why this is even exists, really.
See, this is the interesting thing, and you know, I just don't know about. I mean, look, like I said to people that you're not forced to buy this, so that you've got to understand too that you're not forced to buy this. But I honestly think that if you're a vlogger, I would definitely just go with the ZV-1.
Yeah, for sure. A vlogger?
I mean, this is tiny.
Yeah.
It's perfectly good for vlogging. Great screen. Apple's got built-in NDs if you need that. The built-in mics in this are excellent. And it's $750. Like I would definitely go this way than pay $1,800 for the full frame version.
For sure, and like me and Ike used DJI Pocket Osmo when we were out in Vegas. I've got a GoPro. I mean, I would much rather use really small cameras for vlogging, because those are kind of, I mean, unless you're going out, like I know there's big time vloggers on YouTube that literally they plan out stuff and they go out, and most of these people even have camera guys and stuff for them. But really, for just a vlogger to capture things while they happen, or to keep it quick and light, one-man band, I think the camera you just showed is probably one of the best that you could even consider. So why go with this thing that the codecs aren't better? You don't have a touch screen or nothing. So yeah, it is weird. I think it's just for the pricing of the A7 IV. That's my opinion.
Like I said too, if it was, say, charged at $1,300 to $1,500, I think this would have been fine. But the price that they're putting this at is the part that I don't understand.
Well, what would they do with the A6600 then? Because that's how much that is.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy the A6600 for $1,200 now. It's on B&H for $1,200, I think. I mean, that's a massive saving over paying.
That's like what, $650?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
that's like a lens. That's like one of the Sigma lenses, I think. I'm guessing.
I said you guys should have seen my YouTube subscription feed last night when the embargo lifted. It was literally nothing but the A7C videos. I know, and I watched a few, and I just thought, oh my God, guys, some of you should be telling the truth. Like this is why I will never be a Sony ambassador, because I could not tell the truth.
I watched one guy, and I will not call him out, but I think I sent David a link. He's just like, it was like the best thing. It was way better than the A7 III in every aspect. It's like, what? I mean, that's his opinion maybe, but Sony did give him the camera. So, yeah. I like when other people like me and you buy the camera, or Ike buys the camera, or Jim buys the camera, or regular people that aren't trying to sell up to the big companies. Then you start really seeing stuff on the real nitty and gritty of the cameras. What was you going to say?
I can't remember. It doesn't matter. William said he'd rather wait for the A7 IV, and I think I'd be the same too. I mean, I think that's probably the one that people, would want to go for. Prasad said David was hoping for an A7 R3 in an A6600 body with a better EVF, new menus and screen from the A7S III. I personally would pay $2K for it. Yeah, I mean, the issues for me when you're looking at this camera is the fact that it's got the old interface, and I think that was a real backward step by Sony. I really think all the new cameras that came out from that point on should have had the new menu system. Even if they didn't give you the touch, it should have had the new menu system. But this camera, for the price that it's at, remember when the A7 III came out, we were all, wow, this is incredible. It's incredibly cheap. It's way ahead of its time, and it's still even good now. And what are we, nearly 3 years of having that camera? If they'd given this camera the touch interface that the A7S III had, if they gave it the same menu that it had, even then it may have been more justified at being at that price, because there's big differences between the A7 III and this. But the problem is you're limited to 1/4000th of a shutter speed. You're limited to 1/160th in the flash sync speed. You haven't got the touch interface. It's got one card slot. And this is why I'll always call out Sony for when I think they've done the wrong thing. And look, some are going to say they love this camera, and that's great because everyone is different. Some will come out and say they love it, and good on them, because if this meets your needs, that's fantastic. But I think at the price that they're asking for this, you're better off with the A7 III or even the A6600. That's just what I believe.
What was I going to say? Oh, two things that would have made this A7C like really look good to more people. And that, like you said, just put the new menu system in it. Even if it wasn't touch, people would be like, ooh, it's something new, something refreshing, because we've had the same menu for so many years. So I think that would even get people to be like, okay, maybe I should try this. Or at least 4K 60p with a crop with 100 megabits, or maybe they can go to 150. Just that and nothing else, and just keep it like it is. Just those, one or the other, I think people would be like, oh, 4K 60p finally. I don't think that flip screen, I think they were hoping that flip screen would be the thing I'm talking about. Like, oh, wow, now we got to get it. But I think if the menus or 4K 60p, even at lower bit depths or whatever you call it, would probably push more people into getting it. But for the price and what you get, it's a kind of a hard sell. If you have the money and you like this camera, then absolutely get it. It's going to be a great camera. It's going to produce great quality. The chances of your SD card failing is very limited, but could happen.
Happened to me
I don't
twice
know
with Sony cards.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's happened to me twice in the SanDisk. Was it SanDisk cards? Something like this. It's been years ago. And as far as memory cards, people say, well, vloggers don't need 2 memory card slots, or travelers don't need it. Travelers don't need it. Are you kidding me? I mean, when me and my wife we went to Hallstatt. We had to take, for one, the money to get there. 2, we had to take buses, taxis, trains in countries we don't speak the language. It was confusing. We finally made it there. And, you've got one day and you go hiking all around. You take all these beautiful photos. I take portraits of my wife and some landscape stuff. So whether you're landscape or whatever, you're doing all this stuff. And they say, yeah, but when I get back to the room, I offload. What if the card failed? Are you going to do all that hiking and all that stuff? And I mean, what if the beautiful day was there? You don't have another day to redo that because you're scheduled to do. Man, 2 card slots is really important, I think, for so many things, not just weddings. And because I'd hate to have an expensive trip that took that much time and effort just to have the card die, which I had 2 card fails in my time, which isn't that much, but I would just hate it to happen on something important like that.
Yeah, I mean that's only got the 1 card slot, but I don't use this for anything where it's going to be paid stuff. I mean, I probably could use it for because I haven't had weddings since we've been in lockdown. But I mean, I may use it for doing some detail shots and stuff like that. But I'd always have backups from other cameras in case if it didn't work. But anything critical, particularly, you know, I'd be wanting it to have the dual card slots.
Here's an idea where I wouldn't need 2 card slots. 5 days a week, I do jewelry photography, and I have I don't know if you guys can see this, there's a thing there, but it doesn't matter. I have the jewelry here, and I've got a camera on a tripod, and I've got a macro lens on it, and I focus in on there, and I do, you know, maybe 20 shots of focus stacking, and immediately I offload to my iPad to do my focus stacking and my retouching. So I don't need 2 card slots for that, because if I'm transferring it and the card fails, like, oh, well, that's crappy, I can just do it again. So there are times where, you know, people don't need dual card slots for something like I don't even need it for that type of work. So I could use this camera. It could have the flip screen because it's usually low. And with these cameras, I have to get like this and I'm doing it. So a flippy screen would be nice for me just to look straight down and have the A7 III quality. With 1 card slot, it could work fine for me. So yeah, I mean, there are times.
The thing too, and this is going to be the interesting thing about this camera, and this is why I have to say to people, coming from, you know, not being sponsored, not as a completely neutral in this sort of field, is I think I would not be surprised to see by Christmas this camera is going to be $1,500.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised at all, because I think it's way overpriced. Now, the other thing too you've got to understand too is that this is the A7C. I would not be surprised if in 12 months' time they bring out an A7C 2 or something like that has the new Sony menus, the touch interface, etc. And then I guarantee the money that camera you've just bought is going to just die completely, because this is the issue with the camera at the moment. The technology inside the A7C is 3 years old. And that's how you've got to look at it. There's really nothing in that camera that is 2020. The video resolution really in 2020 sucks. The 1/4000th of a shutter speed sucks. The flash 1/160th also sucks. It's got the old interface. It's got no touch screen. Well, when I say touch screen, it's a useless touch screen. It's really limited. It's way overpriced for what it is. And if you buy in, that's fine if that's what you'd like to do. But like I said, I probably could almost guarantee in a few months' time it's going to drop substantially. Then there'll be a version 2 and the value of this is going to drop through the floor.
And the thing is, that's why I said it's when you buy this camera now, it feels like you're just buying an old camera. And I hate that. You know, when you buy something new, you want to feel like, ooh, there's something new about it. Of course, the shape and the size, you know, is kind of new. But there's just nothing inside new about it. So it feels like I would be buying an old camera already, because it is. It's 3 years old. It's in the A7 III. So I feel just like you. And then when the second one does come out, because they might rush a new one kind of quick like they've done in the past, where, oh my gosh, just a year later, they have the A7 A6400 or whatever it was. It was like really quick, you know. The A66 just came out, and now we've got the A7C. So I would assume that they would come out with one not too far, and then once that comes out, this camera is going to be real. You're not going to be able to sell it for much at all, because I think it's going to dive. Now, the A7 III, I've seen many times brand new on B&H for the same price as the A7C, $1,700. I've seen it many times with an extra battery and with an external charger. So that is like, my goodness, it was on sale like that last month. The A7 III at B&H for $1,700. Yeah. So it's like, you know what I mean?
I mean, the thing is, it's like Venom said, once Sony showed the new menu and touchscreen, why would you want anything else? This is what's happened. Sony made a mistake here. They should have released this before the A7S III came out. This is what should have happened. If that happened, there wouldn't be anywhere near people like me whinging, saying it's an old release and, you know, a bad camera, because they would have had the flip out screen. I would have gone, wow, you know, it's got that I've been after all the time. But the issue is, they played their hand when they showed the A7S III. They showed that new interface, which is really nice, and the new touchscreen, which works really well. Then to go backwards in the next release just seems odd to me. I really thought, Here goes my Sony sponsorship.
Ah,
I really
too late. It's already
I
gone.
really thought that from the point on of the A7S3 that we
That
would
was the
then
camera.
have had that interface and touchscreen in every single camera that came out. And I was really disappointed when, at that price range, when they released that camera without it.
Yep, that's. I kind of explained. I think the A7C should have been the entry level 3 years ago, and the A7 III just now coming out with the full EVF and the new interface and the flip screen and the dual card slots, and then the A7 IV later. I think they kind of mixed that up. And you know, when they make these cameras, they're like. Remember, I sent that thing to you, David, that they had a patent for a full frame small
Yes.
camera. So I think this is it. I think it was in the pipeline for a long time. And, you know, sometimes time isn't on their side. They said, well, we've already put the money in this. Let's just, you know, put this thing out because it's here. And I think that's kind of what happened, because clearly 3 years ago, it should have came out, and it's here now. So, yeah, weird.
I mean, I haven't even heard anything about the color science on this camera yet. No one has
did.
mentioned color. Like,
Well,
is it...
I've heard 3 people say that it has the color science close to that of the A7 III and the A7 R4. Now, I don't know.
Which is older.
Well, I don't know if the A7 R4 and the A7 III, do they have the same color science?
No,
Because
the A7R4 was upgraded. So it was slightly better in the A7R4. But most
that's what
people
they're
that I've
saying.
heard, they say that it looks just the same as the A7 III. That, like,
I would
the
like to see side by
ZV1
side.
the ZV1 had the new color science, and that was sort of touted the whole way through. The A7S3 has now been touted the whole way through of having the new color science. The A9 II was an improvement in color science, but I've really heard no one talking about it in this camera. So have they even
heard 2
done that
people.
down as well?
So I heard 2 people talk about it, and they said it was better, that it had the new color science of the A7S. I keep saying A7 III, A7S3 and the A7R4. That was their comparisons of color science, which was better than the A7 III. But I can't wait till
said the colors are better. He's heard that the colors are better better than the A7 III.
And the thing is, it's all it is a tweak that they do. It's not even new sensor stuff. All it is, like, well, let me put that over there and this over there, and then they implement that as the code, and there's your color science. So, you know.
So look, guys, to sort of sum up, I'm not saying this is a bad camera, but it's a bad
Me neither.
camera. Well, I am in a way, because I think this is a bad camera for 2020.
for 2020 and the
think-
price.
Yep, and the price. If this had come out 2 years ago, I would be jumping up and down saying this is amazing. I still wouldn't be happy about the one card slot, but I would be really happy with everything else, basically, that this camera has bought out. But like I said, to me, and this is why I did the thing yesterday and tried to have a bit of humor about it, that I said, well, all these parts have been left in the factory and they've just reused it and put a camera together from all parts. It looks to me like it just seems to be that it's a 2018 camera that's released in 2020 and they're trying to justify it. And I really don't think it's the right thing to do. I think for the price that they're asking, it should have been way better than what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Sam, I agree with you. He's also saying that it's just to make the pricing different and stuff for A7 IV, which is, I think, is the main. I think they had this in the pipeline for a long time to be the smallest full frame camera, and they want to make the A7 IV more expensive. They don't want to put it out for $2,000 like they did the A7 III, so they're going to bump that. So I think that's what this camera's for. That's why it's not making sense. And so to put a little twist on it, they said, hey, let's just throw a flippy screen on it and cut the top off, put a silver top, and people will go Google gaga for it, and we'll sell a few of them until the A7 IV comes out when we can boost the price. I think that's what it is. That's why it doesn't make sense. So
Yeah. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
it's I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, but like I said, this is certainly one of the cameras that, you know, I would not get. I'm not even interested remotely in it, because if I'm going to travel light, I'm going to use the A6400, which is smaller,
Exactly.
much smaller than what that is anyway, or you get an A6600 and save that money and buy a decent lens.
Well, you know what I do to go smaller? I use a Sony A7 III with the Tamron 28 to 75.
Yeah.
But if I want to go small, I just use the 50 millimeter Sony or the Zeiss 55 millimeter with some of the Samyang lenses. Those are pancake lenses. Those are like small little dinky things. And if you really want to go small, that would probably be even, I can't say smaller, but it might be light as or lighter than the A7C, even with that, even with one of the kit lens. I have to add it up, but it's going to be super close. And you put that in a bag, your shoulder's probably not going to notice the difference holding it with. If you ever guys tried the Samyang 24 millimeter, 35 millimeter, or 45 millimeter, or they have the 75 millimeter now, or the Sony 50 millimeter, even the Sony Zeiss 55, which is the heavier of the bunch there. Holding the A7 III with that, it's really light. It's really compact, and that's pretty small. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's about all there is for today. It's interesting. I mean, like I said, the good thing is no one forces you to buy it. So that's one
Yeah, it's
good
just an
thing.
option.
Yeah, what Aaron and myself think it's not for us, it may be for others. And let us know in the comment box down below. I mean, are you excited by this? Are you thinking about buying it? I mean, we'd love to know that too. So let us know in the comments what you're thinking about that as well. I personally would not buy this. I would buy an A7 III over this due to the fact that you've got the things like I mentioned, the better shutter speeds that are in there, the dual card slots, slightly better body and controls, joysticks, etc. So that would be for me. I'd recommend that, or to go for an A600 and save $600 and buy a decent lens. Do you want to sum up, Aaron, what you think about it?
Yeah, I would say exactly the same thing. It's cool. It's new. But I think once you have, if you have a A7 III already, going with this, you know, the nostalgia of having that new body with the silver top will probably wear off when you just like, it's the same, you know. I think it'll kind of wear off. If you don't have any camera, man, and you really want a full frame and you think this is the, you know, $200 cheaper, I would really just save your money for a few more months just to get that $200 for the A7 III, because the size and weight isn't all that different, and you get a whole bunch more for $200 more. And if the Sony A7C came out first, and now the A7 III came out, everybody would be all over the A7 III saying it's not that much bigger, and you get so much more for $200, like what I'm saying now. So go with that one. But if you're looking for something compact, definitely, like David said, I feel the same. Go with the A6600 if you want Sony. Go with the A60,
ZV-1 if you're a vlogger.
Yeah, that's for the vlog.
Yeah.
If you want photography and kind of all-around type stuff, the A6000 series is perfect. And if you really want to save money, I would say go with the A6100 because it has 4K, new color science, and all that stuff for a really good price. So
I'm just laughing. I'm laughing at Jim's comment because Jim said, "This is the Sony Ambassador Recruiter. Your application has been rejected for this year. Please reapply next year."
He's been rejected for every year here on out. He ain't getting nothing. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
so that's my thing. Go A7 III or A6000 series.
Yep, that's it. All right, so apart from that, guys, I will have another couple of videos coming up in the coming days. I've got a great slider review I've got to do. I've got a spider holster that was sent to me yesterday too, the new ones for the the little grip. So that was sent to me last night.
The thing that I used?
Look at. Yeah, it's a new version, though, that's just come out.
Oh, cool.
So that was just sent to me last night, and I've got a few other things coming on which are pretty exciting in the coming days, so stay tuned for those.
Cool.
Aaron, have you got anything coming up?
Nope, just all
Working?
behind the scenes stuff. Nothing going out on YouTube or nothing. We'll be here next Tuesday at the same time. And if you haven't already, check out our Facebook page. If you want to show it, David, or show some of that spelling.
Videography school.
Because if you're new here, you got to type it just like you're going to see it here. And if you go there, it's a absolutely amazing place to show your work, because we really keep a tight ship over there. We don't let people badmouth people or get all crazy on people like that. Also, we don't get political. We really basically delete any political type stuff, because we want it to be all about videography, photography. Share your video, share your work, and just discuss about stuff. And if you do post a photo, we'd like you to put the settings that you use, just because a lot of people are new over there and they kind of want to see, like, oh, you know, did you use a flash for that, or what shutter speed did you use? It kind of helps out the new guys too. So check that out. There you can see the spelling.
Like this guy, someone here, Jordan asked here, so I'll be shooting my first wedding at the end of the month. What's some advice you guys could give me for video? And there's a whole stack of comments that have been given there. You know, we've got a stack of stuff in there. So it's for videographers and for still shooters. You see Charlie's always posting stuff in here as well. He's also put the A7C specs disappointing. He's in the group now. So we've got, you know, some great stuff in there. So please join us. Now, if you're after the link, it just all you have to do is type in photography and videography school. Just don't forget to put the ampersand in there as well. So that's how that works. So, yeah, please join us. We'd love to see you on board. Apart from that, I should be back, you know, on the Friday your time with the Sony Alpha News and Rumours, as long as there's stuff to talk about. It'd be interesting. There may not be that much, seeing all this stuff has just been released, but that should be on later this week. So apart from that, everyone, we'll see you in the next video. We'll see you next week at the same time, same place, same channel. We should crawl up a building while we're saying that. All right. Catch you later, everyone. Bye. Now that we've stopped Aaron,
I ordered 2 of them, but I didn't want to tell them. It's kind of embarrassed to say it.
I'm probably going to get a couple too, because they're really good, aren't they? I just want
amazing. I just don't want them to run out of stock.